All right. So welcome to Why Quality Matters, a faculty panel of our Poole College of Management faculty to talk about the Quality Matters program that they went through here at NC State. So I'm going to introduce everyone really quickly. The format for today is going to be that first, Beth Ann is going to talk about the Quality Matters program available through Delta. And then after she talks, then we have 4 faculty here who have done various levels of the Quality Matters program. So Bruce Branson, Eileen Taylor, Paul Mulvey, and Sarah Kahn. Thank you so much for being here. So I have some preset questions for them, but y'all attending are welcome to jump in and ask questions at any time. I've also saved some time at the end for questions. And with that being said, I'm going to let Beth Ann introduce herself and talk. And Beth Ann, I will set a timer for 10 minutes and let you know when we're getting close.
Thank you, Beth. I will probably be well under the 10 minutes, so to give our faculty the time. So hi, everyone. I'm Beth Ann Winsler, formerly probably knew me as Toby. I am the Assistant Director of Course Quality at within Delta, and we have over the last 5 years created some programs for faculty and pathways for them to one, either work on getting their course internally reviewed by a group of peers at NC State, or going to submitting their courses for formal QM certification. We've got a couple changes coming up over the next year to both our programs. I know Bruce and Paul was like, oh gee, he was one of the first, he was in the pilot program. So Paul and Bruce went through what we called OSIP, and then Eileen and Sarah, and I know they'll talk about it, went through what we call QMESP, but we've kind of rebranded those. And so I'm going to just put a link to the an information, a comparison chart of our 2 grants. Now they're being infused with our Delta grants and Delta Express grants. So like I said, yeah, I put the link in the chat, and I'm just going to talk very quickly about what these 2 programs are and the changes that
Beth, I do not see it in the, never mind, that's me, ignore me.
Oh, that's okay. Would it be more helpful if I shared my screen?
No, I had it too small, sorry.
All right. So the first one is the course improvement grant, and so that is going to be infused with our Delta grants. So Delta grants, if you guys know about those, of course, here comes my cat, start open on April 18th. So our RFPs are on the website right now. You can read through those. They have some information about our different grants, but the call for applications opens on April 18th. And so the course improvement grant is what was formerly OSIP. And so we have spread that out. It used to be a semester, and now we're spreading it out over 7 months. So it's going to run from September to April because it involves a lot of work. And what the faculty do is they focus on applying those 42 standards from the QM rubric to their course. We provide now quite a bit of resources to them. You get an advisor that you meet with one-on-one, and so someone from Delta or a faculty fellow, a faculty lead that we've assigned. And then we have cohort meetings, and those cohort meetings are going to be hybrid over the next year. So you'll have the opportunity to come to Delta and meet with the group or Zoom in. And so you have those. You also participate in a lot of online activities and assignments, all working to, they're all should be, meaningful, where you're applying the standards to your course, you're making the changes, and you're sharing it with your cohort. So that is what is getting ready to come out with the Delta application. So if you're interested, the whole goal of the course improvement grant, is to get Quality Matters certification. So once you finish that program next April, you and I sit down, we submit your course to QM, you go through the certification process, and then woohoo, we celebrate. the other one, the Course Essentials Grant, is part of the new Delta Express grants. I don't know if you've seen some of those, but they're kind of coming up every semester. So we're trying to offer Delta grants rather than just one time a year, more than once a year. So the Course Essentials Grant is what Eileen and Sarah went through. So this one is more independent. Rather than a cohort, you're still going through with people. You don't have, it runs over 4 months, so over one semester. The award for this, I'm sorry, we bumped up our awards, is $4,000. It was formerly $2,000. The one for the course improvement grant for next year is $6,000. That was formerly $4,000 as an award. So this one, you really focus just on the essential standards. Those are what we call the 3-pointers. So you're working primarily asynchronously. You still have an advisor, but rather than meeting with them throughout the course, you just have 3 check-ins. And then you have 3 group check-ins, but really in weekly activities and assignments. But this is much more of an independent program. So if you are not, feeling the cohort vibe and the meetings and a lot of intensive consultation or, advising, this may be for you. One thing that we have, and I'm almost done, Beth, I swear. One thing that we have changed about both of these is both of these offer paths to certification now. So where QMESP used to just be internal reviews by your peers at NC State, now you can just skip and go right to a formal review, which is what Sarah did this semester. So I think I covered everything. We do have you do have 6 courses from Poole that are going to be there's 4 that are officially certified, and then there's 2 that are almost there, Jessica Thomas's and Sarah Kahn's. So I'm happy if you want to send me an email or ask any questions. I am here for you, and we always love our PCOM faculty. You guys are fabulous to work with. That's it.
Thank you so much, Beth Ann. Do we have any questions specifically about the Delta grants or the programs for Beth Ann?
Beth Ann, are the grants given as salary or are they given to the department?
That's a good question, Eileen. They are given to the department. They're awarded to the department, and then you work with your department on how to disperse those funds. We can't do additional compensation because of all the craziness that is way above my head that's involved.
I'm gonna sit here and wait and see if there are any other questions. All right, well, Beth Ann is going to stick around for the whole panel. So if you think of something, like if you get interested after you hear more from Eileen or Bruce and you really want to know what you should put in your Delta grant application or anything like that, she will still be here so we can ask more questions at the end. All right, but we will go ahead and dive into the other questions. Thanks again so much, Beth Ann. So panel questions, and I'm going to try to make sure that I ask these in different order, and I'll ask panelists, I'll ask a couple of you, and then if you decide you ought, like if I call on 2 people and then a third person wants to answer, like we can switch it up however you want. So the first question, I'm going to start with Bruce because he's the first face on my screen, is to tell us a little bit about your course that you got Quality Matter certified, both the content and also the delivery method, and what types of assessments you included, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Thanks, Beth. So the course I had certified was ACC 210. That's our kind of principles of financial accounting, which is our intro course, a core course here in Poole College, as I think everybody knows, and one that also draws students from all over campus, honestly. So the course is taught asynchronously online, so through recorded lectures and lots of assessments. to keep them kind of on track. And I think, you mentioned so it's a 200 level course, but I think for a Poole College student, it actually would appear in there, if we still have an 8-semester display, as a second semester freshman course. I think they're expected to take it in the spring of their freshman year, just to keep them on track for all of their other courses. We also use Connect, so the McGraw-Hill kind of software and ebook package. So I have assessments that are in Connect, so they have to jump over to the Connect site to complete kind of what I typically set up as a pre-assignment to get them started in each module. So you can read a chapter of material and do this Connect assignment, a smart book assignment, which is mostly conceptual questions that they, and graded basically on a completion basis. Just have to stick with it. I have very short quizzes that are that correspond with each of my lectures. I know it's not the best practice, but I still am posting lectures that run typically 45 to 60 minutes in length, with lots of encouragement for them to pause as they see fit. And also I'm encouraging them in the lectures to pause as we maybe stop and go over a knowledge check question, much as I was used to doing in a live class using Top Hat. But then they'll take a short 5-question Moodle quiz on that content. So they do that twice a week. And then we are very fortunate to have a problem session that's managed by Robin Thomas, that's one of our colleagues here in the accounting department. And those are taught by our Masters of Accounting students. So they meet every Friday morning. And those include a set of exercises that are reviewed in those problem sessions, as well as a quiz on a particular module's content that kind of culminates a week of activity for them. 4 exams over the course of the semester, also on Moodle. So I think I covered everything, but I guess the big picture is, the courses is online, obviously, asynchronous. Although I've taken those principles when I'm teaching a live class now, and definitely, my Moodle sites that I'm using in my face-to-face classes are very similar, especially with respect to the work that went in developing a course map and other things that I learned through the process.
Great, thank you. Sarah, would you like to share?
Sure, thank you, Beth. What I did was I took the Business 340, the infamous course, through this process, and the only concern I had, which made me pick this, was it is a very large course in terms of enrollment every semester, and it's taught by multiple faculty. So keeping the content standardized is, we try our best, but it is not guaranteed, because everybody have a different teaching style, students have different experiences. So we've been playing with the ideas of to what extent or what components of this course we can make or standardize to help students, instead of just focusing on their experience. And that led me to explore the QM program. I looked at the essential standards, and it turned out that we can still play around with the content while keeping the experience for our students pretty standard across 7-8 sections that they go through. And it really doesn't matter who's teaching the course, as long as on those essential standards, you can standardize the course across those. So that course is hybrid. If somebody doesn't know about it, we meet once a week in class. The rest of the time, students are working online through videos and through Pearson packages. The assessments are self-paced as of now. During COVID, we went with self-paced ones. It's a pretty structured course, and it has regular assessments, just like Bruce mentioned in his course. So the only thing left out was to keep certain elements of the course standard so the students can have similar experiences, if not same, irrespective of whichever section they were enrolled in.
Great, thank you. Eileen, can you tell us a little bit about yours? I know you've got multiple courses.
So I have two courses. They're both 1 credit hour MBA core courses. So the first one was the critical thinking course that I started teaching about 7 years ago and developed, but that one I got QM Essentials certified. That is completely online. It's a required core course for all of our MBA students, full-time and the online and professional track. So I teach the online class to the online students and the professional track students who normally would meet at RTP or in the evening, but they do the online section. It is it's an 8-week class. So I teach 2 sections a semester. Everything's online. So I've got video for them. I've got some readings and then one longer written assignment that's due once a week, every week. And then so that's critical thinking. The other is MBA 512, which is the core ethics course. It's also 1 credit hour, and that's also an 8-week course, and that's given to all the full-time and the online students. The online version, it's more of a mix, and I kind of picked this up from QM, is to not just have all individual work, but I've got 3 discussion forums, and then so I either rate their discussion, and that gets them a little bit more interactive, especially with things like ethics. You need to talk to other people about it. But rather than just grade their posts, I also have them write a reflection that reflects on the ethical traits that they demonstrated in the post. So they have to, some posts are graded and some are not, but there is always a grade component. And so those are the 2 courses, and one is essentials certified and one is fully certified. And I was talking about that. I can get the essentials one upgraded a little bit, which is nice. And I think those last 5 years before you have to re-up them. So yeah, that's the course. Those are the courses.
Great, thank you so much. All right, and last but not least, Paul.
Thanks, Beth, and thanks, Beth Ann. Wow, it's been a while since I've seen you, so thanks for joining the call today. So, similar to Sarah, I teach a 300 level MIE 330 human resource management class. Unlike Sarah, I only teach it in the summer unless I'm asked to teach it overload. And we've had at least 4, maybe more faculty who've used the QM framework to deliver the class. So I've really given that away to other faculty, and encourage anybody who is interested, if you want to look at the class, I'd be happy to add you to an old class. The class is a kind of a survey of human resource management, so we don't go into any one topic and with a lot of detail. We have 3 projects that the students do, and they do those individually. They take 3 exams, with the final exam being comprehensive. They take 13 Connect quizzes. There are 6 forums, and several of those forums, they interact with each other in teams. And there are several other activities throughout the summer session. The thing that I had to pay attention to was that it's in a summer session, it's 5 weeks. And so, you've got to be fairly efficient in terms of the amount of student time. Most of the students, I think, are doing internships or working. So they've got limited time. One thing that we found over the course of, let's say, teaching this class since it was certified, but even before then, since about 2014, is in that 5-week format, is that Sunday night seems to be a preferable due date for most of their work. So the level of interaction is there, like most QM certified classes are, I believe. And we've been changing a little bit here and there, but you can only change, I think, Beth Ann, tell me if I'm wrong, up to 20% of the content between the recertifications.
Yes, you're right, Paul. Well, 20% of the overall course. So yeah, but nobody's going to check on you. That's just when you come up for the recertification process, and they're going to have a look.
Yeah, and I believe I'm up next year. Is that right? Is it 5 years?
You are? Yeah, I was just getting a schedule together and creating that, yeah, next summer,
Great.
next July.
Great. All right. Thanks. Okay. So I think we've heard the answer to this a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and ask again. And I'm going to start with Sarah this time, just to mix things up. Why do you think Quality Matters certification is important or useful? And what was the value of the certification for you?
That's a great question, Beth. And honestly, I did not see the value of it until I really started working on these standards. So the way I went through was last summer, I had to take an online course on the essential standards just to get acquainted with it. I was traveling, so I was trying to make use of my jet lag, early morning hours to go through those content. And that's where I realized that we focus so much on the course content that we ignore some key elements that may matter to our students when it comes to experience. For example, all the Quality Matters faculty who have this experience, there is a standard on accessibility. And there are some it seemed like benign, but there are some very small details that matter so much. And if we just pay attention to them, it can improve the experience for our students tremendously. So as I mentioned before, the primary value that I've found through this certification process was I was able to, through the standards framework, focus on those key elements that may help improve my students' experience with the course, aside from the content. And also, I'm also foreseeing that since we have to get recertified every 5 years, that we can maintain that quality, even if we think about changing the content and so forth. And also, as I mentioned before, this course is taught by multiple faculty members. Now I have a clearer idea that if the faculty they need flexibility in terms of delivery. So I can really communicate with them. Okay, these are the aspects that we cannot mess with. And these are the ones that, you're free to do whatever you want. And that I couldn't do before going through this process, but now I have a much better idea for that. So bottom line, for a course, a very large course like Business 340, Information Systems Management, this turned out to be a really good decision and an experience.
Wonderful. Eileen, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I guess I would just say, how in your class evals, when students complain that they were confused or things weren't organized, or I'm trying to think of all the euphemisms they give for they just didn't know what to do, all of those comments go away. And then you get comments on things you can fix, like on the content or what have you. So I would say the biggest kind of takeaway is that students appreciate the organization and that it looks the same as every other course you teach, and they know where to start and they know how long something's going to take because you've got the minutes in there. And I also find that when I went through the process, I took things out that maybe I liked but weren't addressing course objectives, so you don't get their comments about this is busy work or how does this relate to the course, because everything ties in. So what I would say is it gets rid of a lot of the negatives, and then students can focus on the positive parts because you've taken all that cognitive load and minimized it for them, and now they can focus on learning and not when is something due or where do I find this. That'd be my big takeaway.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Bruce or Paul, do you have anything else you want to add to this?
Bruce, if you do, go ahead, but you're still muted, so I'm going to assume that you don't, or at least you want to wait. But I look back at my email to Beth Ann originally. I remember that I started teaching in the summers in person and was actually strong-armed into teaching online. I didn't really want to do it. I still actually prefer teaching in person, but what happened was the student demand was so much higher for online than it was in person during the summer, so that I did go eventually to both classes. But I wasn't really happy with the process. So I think, if we're going to offer online classes, or if we're going to have any content online, it does need to improve, and mine did significantly. So going through that process with peers, with Beth Ann, and actually quite a few of the folks from Delta went in on the pilot OSIP class. I think that was really helpful, and to become a student about how to deliver material was important. I think most of us on the call probably are interested in doing better in terms of teaching, but having a standard to which to compare what you're doing is really, really helpful. And I think the biggest thing the thing I think I struggled with the most, and the biggest thing for the students, was that course map. And I think Eileen had mentioned kind of like the outcomes of that. And my emails when I teach online went down significantly, the number of emails you had to do. In addition, because our class sizes seem to be going up and up and up, this just makes it a lot more efficient for both sides.
I'll jump in quickly. My transition to online, for some of us at least, happened 2 years ago or a little more, when we were thrust into it after spring break due to COVID, and recognized that the course that I was teaching and am teaching is an important course for us, for our department, and we wanted it to be a really good experience. So that motivated me to think harder about how it could be both effective and a good experience for the students. That led me to explore OSIP. And I'd heard about, obviously, that opportunity through Eileen, and then Jessica, also with her work with the MAC program, talking about course maps. And, I'll admit I was initially skeptical I thought that was just going to be busy work for me. But as I dove into it, kind of Sarah's experience that she mentioned resonates with me too, that the more I put into it in terms of thinking about why I was doing certain things and asking students to do certain things, and was that really getting them to an objective that was important for us to accomplish, that turned out to be a very powerful exercise, and not simple. I mean, there was definitely time and thought put into that. I publish it. That's a recommendation to make it available to the students. I'm not sure how many honestly look at it, but I think some do. And I try to encourage them to at least understand, as we move through individual modules, how that ties back to the overall objectives for the course. And I think, at least for some, that can be an important contribution. I especially liked, as Paul mentioned, working with a cohort of other faculty from the university. I found that to be really valuable. And then Beth Ann and her team were indispensable, honestly, in making it happen in terms of keeping us on task and making really excellent contributions and suggestions to move forward.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so that kind of leads into a follow-up question of how long did it take you to prepare your course for Quality Matters certification, and what all was involved? Because we heard Beth Ann say it's a lot of work. We've heard y'all talk about the course map being kind of a big project. So I'm going to start with Paul this time.
You have to look it up. I think we started in the well, Beth Ann, when did we start? Did we do all year, or did we do?
It was, I think yours was just a semester. Yeah.
Semester. So we did January to the end of the semester. And then the course was certified July 19th, 2018. So I think we met, on I think once a week or once every other week basis. Certainly there was things to do in between time. But it certainly, having a schedule made it go more smoothly. And yes, the biggest, as Beth was saying, the biggest challenge was the course map in that process. And But having gone through that, I think it reflects on your other classes significantly, and having that design reflects, even though the course may not be certified, it certainly improves all your courses by understanding that process.
And Sarah, I think you might have gone through this the most recently. You want to share?
Sure. And Al also has a question in the chat window, so I'll just club it together and try to answer both in my answer. So I went through that semester-long grant with Delta last fall. So we started in August and everything was wrapped up by December. And as Paul mentioned, it goes pretty smoothly because things are, so there are milestones that we have to achieve. There are certain that it's better to be on time with them. And there's also flexibility. I remember there were a few milestones towards the end that I couldn't do on time because there was so much work piling up, but eventually you do get caught up. The most time-consuming aspect in all of this is the course map. Once you get it when you sort that out, everything else falls into place. So things become quite smooth after that. And I think the way the course is structured is that you are given considerable amount of time to work on your course map until everyone's happy with it. And then it's all about plugging in the things. And Delta, the template that Delta gave, the Moodle template, that was so helpful. You just start importing things in. So basically, you're not working on rediscovering the content. You're just restructuring your existing content around the essential standards. So I would say the most time-consuming thing is course map. And I just want to say a little disclaimer here. Since Business 340 already had a previous grant from Delta, a critical path grant, so that team did a wonderful job of structuring the course to be successful in a hybrid environment. So personally, if I compare myself to my other peers in that cohort, then I spend considerably less amount of time on getting things done. But I would assume it would vary for every faculty member.
All right. And Bruce or Eileen, would you like to add anything?
I mean, I guess it doesn't take any more time than creating any other course. And if you already have your content, it's more just refining it. So I don't know that I kept track of time doing it. And I had a mentor to kind of bounce things off of. But you've got a guideline and you just kind of work through it. If you already have your content of your course, it's what we do, right? I did find though that I think once it was created, I had to do less each semester. So once it was put in place and I had good videos and everything worked together, I found myself kind of tending to it less than I have to tend to courses that are not QM certified, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I went through the process last spring. I guess there was a prerequisite course that was online, and maybe Sarah made reference to that, that was just about kind of learning about the rubric and the standards. And then once that was done, I went into the OSIP program, which was semester long. We met as a cohort, I think every other week. And then on the off weeks, it was typically one-on-one with a Delta mentor that I was working with to help me move forward. The course map was a lift. I'll also say in honesty that I think Sarah mentioned the importance of accessibility, making sure your PowerPoint slides, for example, are accessible and include. And I'm trying to remember the word now, but all of the graphic images need to be tagged or described. Yeah, so that, and of course that's coming along fairly late in the course. It's like, we get that done, but got that finished in the spring and then got certified. I think my official date was maybe August 1 a year ago. So it's great.
That's great. And I do want to since we've talked about how long it took and the difficult parts, I want to mention really quickly for anybody who is saying, this sounds like a lot, I'm not sure I'm quite ready for it, that's part of what the instructional design group here at PCOM is for. We can do smaller versions. So if you want to learn more about how to do course mapping, if you want help getting accessibility in your course, but you're not quite ready to do all of the QM points, that's what we are happy to consult with and help on. And then also for our course redesign grants, where we help faculty upgrade the graduate classes to, upgrade courses that have been online for a while. We do kind of a QM light version. So you get part of the way there, and then you can always choose to do a full QM later. All right, so after that little plug for us, I'm going to skip ahead because we kind of addressed two questions at once, and ask how you feel quality matters has impacted your student success in your courses. So let's see, Eileen, want to start with you?
I think it's just clarity of how everything works together. So because you've got the course objectives and then the learning objectives are linked to the readings and the assignments, students recognize that, oh, if I have to do this assignment, it links to that learning objective, and so does the reading. So I have to do this reading, and this is the order I do things in. So I think it's just made the path clearer for them, so there's less confusion on their part. And then for the ones that would do the work anyway, it just gives them better network mapping in their mind about why they're doing what they're doing, and that it's intentional. So so it gives them maybe more confidence when they're taking the class in what they're being asked to do.
Sarah?
So I cannot say for sure, since this is the first semester that I deployed my new design. But one thing that I've noticed is I have received considerably less emails from students saying we missed a deadline or we missed a task. And Eileen said it rightly. It provides a lot of clarity to the students up front in the semester. They will know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and what everything is due, and what is the weight of those assessments. Because a lot of times students put more weight on something that is not contributing too much towards their grade as compared to other things. They're ignoring those. So I'm hoping this is a good sign, getting less emails, and I'm looking forward to looking at my students' performance.
Right, Paul, you've been doing this the longest.
So I saw that in the chat, Patrice said, have you seen a lift in the student course evaluations? I hadn't looked at that. I was just actually trying to look that up. But I do know that because of the feedback we got from the review, from outside reviewers for Quality Matters, that I needed to have more student-to-student interaction. And I decided to do that through a forum. And there was a new technology to do that. There was a new type of forum that Moodle had put out. So I said, okay, we'll try that. Total disaster. It didn't work. And then I wanted to force it to work. And that semester course evaluations were not that good. So what I would recommend is that if you're going to do something new with respect to Quality Matters, so that, let's say, students are interacting with each other, that you actually kind of pilot it out and test it and make sure it does work. At that moment, the Delta professional that was helping me, and she's fantastic, but she was gone for the week. So she was doing something else and what was not available for that. So I would just add a word of caution is, if you're going to change things significantly or use a new technology, that you make sure you go ahead and do that. And once that semester was over, or once that summer class was over, really haven't had any problems since. And I think what Eileen had mentioned with respect to efficiency is true for my class. I have enough students to get a TA, and typically that TA is extremely helpful. It is a fairly easy process to update the class, get it ready to go, run it again because of everything that's in place. So I really look forward to doing that, and then try to be as available as possible to the students because it is asynchronous, and making sure that if they do have questions, that either me or TA can get back to them as quickly as possible.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to throw it open now to questions from everybody else attending. And I'll be quiet for a minute to see what people say. And I think both Al and Patrice's comments were addressed already in between the chat and Paul. But if y'all have questions you want to ask out loud, please feel free.
While we're waiting for questions, I would say that, I'm certainly available to talk about it at any point in time. So if you're interested in learning more about it from my perspective, getting into more details, I'd be certainly happy to do that. And I'd be happy to share the class with you too. It's nothing that nothing that's really proprietary. A lot of the structure was stuff that we got from Delta and through the OSIP class that I went through. So be happy to share that with anyone.
And I'll add too, the people who do the reviewing are not at all interested in the content, except that it, makes sense and relates to what you're asking students to do and the course objectives. So you still have complete control over what you teach. It's more the formatting and how you present to students. So it's really, no one's trying to tell you what to cover and what not to cover at all.
And I thought I would address, I know Al's question maybe was addressed in the comments about trying to maybe teach a course while you're also in the middle of changing the course, perhaps, through the QM process. I was teaching 210 last spring while I was also working on the redesign. I was doing them in parallel fashion. I was not trying to implement live changes, somewhat to Paul's point, last spring to change that version on the fly. But I didn't find it terribly difficult. There was definitely some efficiencies, in fact, from teaching the course and then also working on the course over in a project space with help from the Delta folks. That worked really well. And I do get a lot of comments now and evaluations that are happy with the organization and the structure of the course, that they, it's just echoing some points that have been made, that students do seem to find it, easy to follow, easy to understand what's being asked of them, and also, at least for many students, why they're being asked to do it. And that's definitely an improvement over perhaps years past.
All right. Any other questions from the crowd? I have one more that I'm going to ask the panelists myself, but I want to give anybody else a chance to ask first.
I had a quick question for Sarah. I'm very interested in your hybrid format. You're in the catalog. Is the course considered a seated course or an online course? I'm assuming a seated, but I wanted to make sure.
So, it is hybrid course. When I say hybrid, it is students are told that it's a hybrid. Okay. There's once a week meeting. So that's exactly how, and it's pre-COVID. The COVID has nothing to do with the structure of the course. So it went through this restructuring before COVID because we were running out of space practically. So, and the work I did to restructure the content to make it hybrid actually helped with the QM certification as well, because if I remember correctly, the standards when you're working through it, it's like for online course and hybrid course, but I don't see why it can't be applied to an in-person course as well. So to answer your question, Jessica, it is like the hybrid course.
Okay, I learned something. I didn't know hybrid course was an option as a choice, as the official label offering. So thank you.
So there is a question in the chat from Al. He says, please share your suggestions about how to get everyone to approve the course mapping efficiently. And Al, I'm not totally sure that I understand what the question means. Would you mind turning on the mic and expanding on that? Or you can type more in the chat if that's more comfortable to you.
Yes, and just learned from Eileen that the course mapping is most time consuming. And I don't know how many parties involved. I'm just wondering what would be the best way to get everybody on board the same way, same time, quickly.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. I think, you know, it's not that there are so many people involved. I just think it does involve some reflection on your part, on our part individually, to try to, you know, run through basically, you know, if it's a course you're already teaching and you want to, you know, take it to this next step, just asking yourself as you go through each of the, you know, assessments and other resources that you're providing, you know, why are you having them do that? You know, what is the goal? I think Eileen alluded to, you know, some things that maybe she liked, but didn't really necessarily ultimately make it into her course because she felt like they didn't maybe map nicely into the objectives that she had set for herself. I got a lot of help personally from my Delta mentor. You know, they've gone through this process helping faculty develop course maps a number of times. So I think Bethany had a lot of insight into maybe what might be more common sticking points and did suggestions to move that process along. So having that help was really important and useful.
Yeah, and I just wanted to put a plug in that Paul Mulvey recorded a video about what course maps are that we're releasing in our instructional design newsletter next week. It's less than 5 minutes long. So I recommend checking it out because it's got a lot of footage of what the course map actually looks like. It might help clarify what this means and give you a little idea of what you would be doing. And also, it's a great advertisement for the kinds of videos that Chris can make for you, for your courses. Right, any other questions? These were all great. All right, I have one more question if there's no more from everyone else attending. And this is, do you have any tips or advice for any of our faculty who are looking to achieve Quality Matters certification? Or just applying for a grant, because for Sarah, I know, for example, you had a critical path Delta grant. So.
Well, all I can say, it's pretty straightforward, and I don't think there is any concept of anyone getting rejected in that grant. If you want to get it done, Delta is there to help you. And if I have to compare myself doing this all by myself as compared to my experience with Delta, I would say at NC State, we have this huge opportunity to get these resources allocated to this effort, and getting help from experts at Delta. It makes things a whole lot easier. So I don't see any reason why one shouldn't, who cares about the quality of their course and the experience of their students in the course, why they should not apply for this grant and get their course certified.
I think if you are a little intimidated by the time or the effort that's involved, just doing little things could do. You know, for example, you can get the IDG group to help you with a particular aspect of that. Beth, maybe we could share a template that, and you probably already have this, but certainly have that for faculty to take a look at, put in a project space, maybe adapt it And by doing so, you're probably going to meet some of the criteria for Quality Matters, and you'd get a head start in the process.
Yeah, I dropped, that's a great idea, Paul. I dropped a link in a little bit earlier in the chat, and I'll grab it and put it in here again. But we have within IDG a whole folder of things related to course mapping, including examples of several courses, including, I think, yours, but Lee Shamblin's is in there, and a couple other examples. So I will share that again.
And I'll just say, I had, while there was definitely work involved, there's no question about that. It was a very positive experience working with Bethany and her team. And again, I really enjoyed working with the other faculty cohort that were going through this process. We were evaluating, small aspects of each other's course. And at the end of the process, we did a review, trying to provide constructive feedback in advance of the formal certification review. You learned a lot about what other faculty are doing and different ways that they're designing their courses and delivering their content that I found really useful and helpful.
And I guess I'll add too, if you teach a course and there's other people who teach that same course, you could work together so you're not doing everything. And that might help, that collaboration might help make it not so much on you individually, but more of a shared experience. And I'm not sure how the department would handle the money part of it.
But then we had a pair go through with the original, with the pilot group. And we only saw one of the two, but certainly both were working on it. Is that right?
Yes, that is right. And increasingly, we're seeing more faculty requests that their TA or their graduate students attend and participate in meetings. So, even now we're having someone from College of Natural Resources, their instructional technologist, Erin Adair, Beth, may be coming to some of the meetings. So yeah, it can be a collaborative effort as far as a monetary award, and what you do with that is, I hate to keep pushing it back on y'all, but you got to figure it out.
Great. Okay, well, any last questions? Oh, good. There's another one. Are QM courses relevant to the AACSB accreditation? Roby?
Say it again. How is it?
Is Getting Quality Matters certified relevant to our AACSB accreditation?
Yeah, I had that question last week and I hadn't really responded to it yet from Tama. I don't know if Tama was who asked this one as well, but it would be, but I don't know if it's explicitly recognized in our PCOM sort of requirements as to what you have to do to meet the different requirements for different classifications, right? It wouldn't affect whether you're a scholarly academic, but it would be, I think, a teaching oriented activity that would count in the larger count for your classifications. So I haven't looked at it specifically to see what we include and if we need to adjust it for that, but it would be like going to a teaching conference would qualify, right? So I mean, something like this would, I think, certainly qualify as well. I don't know if that was the sort of the question, is just would it affect how you're classified or something like that?
Eileen put in the comments, I don't think you might not be able to see the comments, Roby, that it might be related to accessibility or inclusivity. Are there requirements for that in our accreditation?
Well, it wouldn't affect the individual, those things wouldn't affect your individual faculty members' classification. But I mean, all of this, I've told Sarah and others too, it's a great story to tell in our larger AACSB report, right? I mean, that for sure, but individually, it's probably just one more thing that you need to count towards whatever classification you're looking at for your qualifications for AACSB.
And I was thinking just, the story to tell about if we
Yeah.
set a goal of X number of classes need to be accessible and inclusive, this is one way we're getting to that goal. But that doesn't relate to an individual faculty member's classification, but it still relates to us having goals and meeting them.
Most definitely, yeah.
All right, well, we are just about out of time. So I want to make sure if you could either, if you're on screen or virtually using your emoji buttons, if you could give a big thank you, round of applause to Bruce, Eileen, Sarah, Paul, and Beth Van. We appreciate your time so much. And we had several instructors who could not come to today's session, but really wanted to see the recording. So know that it's spreading farther than just who's here even. If you have any questions about the grants, there are some, I have forgotten the word. There's some meeting info sessions from Delta coming up. So again, go to that grant page that we posted in the chat, and you can find those meeting dates. And of course, you can talk to faculty or talk to IDG outside of this workshop. We're happy to. And I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good weekend too. Appreciate it.